everybody, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Five Guys on Live. Gentlemen, how are you doing this week?
Good.
Good. We have so much to talk about. Am I coming through clear? Good. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. You know, guys, in this really busy week, and really one of the and viewers, let us know who you are, where you are coming from as you join us. This week is going fast and furious for a lot of people, mainly about the 40 million Americans who are now at risk for eviction. This is a topic that you brought to our group. Tell us about it.
Very much so. So first off, I want to say, excuse me, I lost my voice yesterday singing, so bear with me, if you will. But yeah, so some of you may know that the federal moratorium, how you pronounce it, somebody say it.
The federal moratorium,
there it is, ended recently. And just jumping right into it, more than 3.6 million renters are worried that they would have to leave their homes due to eviction in the next 2 months, according to a biweekly survey conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau. And far more, 7.4 million Americans reported being behind on their rent in most recent survey, according to the census data. A review of census data by the left-leaning Center of Budget and Policy Priorities explains that those having trouble paying are more likely to be people of color and people with children in the household. Now, this situation has definitely, just been a big thing just across the nation right now. However, some individual states have decided to extend their eviction ban. States such as Massachusetts, Nevada, New York, Oregon, Jersey, and California. But the big thing is who dropped the ball? Did the government drop the ball? A lot of people like to put things on the Republicans. However, the Democrats sort of came late to the plate in terms of just extending this. Or we drive around, the city and the state a lot, and you see every business basically hiring signs. So do you think that Americans should have went ahead and went back to work? However, regardless of whatever time we decided to reopen the country, a lot of these people that were a part of this program are having to go through back pay as well for the rent that they weren't able to cover, not only in terms of just August 2021 or July 2021. So yeah, I just wanted your opinion on it. Like, who dropped the ball, and what are some practical solutions that you see that can come out of it? Because 7.4 million Americans, that's a lot of people.
Well, I don't even think we're fully out of I know we're not fully out of the pandemic. And so it's gonna be hard to, see this happen, especially knowing that the economy is probably about to take another hit again as we, consider the possibility that lockdowns are back on the way. The numbers are rising again. Even with people being vaccinated, there are quite a few breakthrough cases that are happening. People are returning to school. And so as people return to school, the numbers will increase as well. And I think that another lockdown is inevitable at this point. So it'll be interesting to see if these things are taken into consideration as we think about this moratorium on evictions. And I'm hoping that lawmakers will see this as something that we need to extend until we get on the other side of this pandemic. But also people need to do what they need to do so that we can get on the other side of this pandemic. So I'll be interested just to see how things play out. And I'm hoping for the best in terms of making sure these people are able to keep their, homes and things.
So we have some great commentary. I just found out because I always look to see our viewers, and I realized that the viewing from my page, I think this happens to you, DeAndre, maybe last week, it's not happening. So this is a technical error, something is going on, because usually viewers are tuned in. So something is going wrong on the Facebook connection with my account and the Facebook, but I just posted. People can go to our Five Guys on Live actual page, our Five Guys on Live group, or YouTube to watch and stick around. If you're trying to watch on page and it's kind of kicking you off and saying that we have a technical error. Vince, when you said earlier, whose fault is it? I actually have a new video that I'm posting to Instagram tomorrow that talks about whose fault it is. This is not the fault solely of the Biden administration, because In June of 2021, this past June, the Supreme Court actually said that the federal government could not extend the moratorium. So no matter what Congress does or what President Biden wants to have happen, it can't happen without Supreme Court approval, because those cases will go to the Supreme Court and get overturned. The only thing that could happen now would have to be an actual federal law that would extend it. So this isn't something Biden can fix. In regards to congressional Democrats, they perhaps dropped the ball, but I think that the situation is a little bit more nuanced than what we may want to accept. Because on one hand, we have people who pay rent to live where they live, who haven't paid it, but we're also having to look at the fact that there are people that own these properties who are actually going bankrupt, losing everything they have because the money isn't coming to them. Now, here's the thing. The money, Darius and Malik, who are saying free rent, the money has been allocated by the federal government. I think that we had about $45 billion that should have been allocated in the Two CARES Act that would have go to those actual landlord owners. But the problem is that money hasn't been distributed by the states and the local governments. So it's actually a complex issue. So when we talk about putting blame, the blame may lie on Biden for maybe not emphasizing this enough in July. The blame may lie somewhat on congressional Democrats, but to me, more of the blame is placed on local governments and state governments who did not educate their citizens about what needed to happen, as well as the media. In my opinion, there should have been a huge media push around what people who were renting and who had fallen behind needed to do. Again, $45 billion has been allocated. Only $1.5 billion has been spent. Only 6% of those funds have actually been used, and that to me is criminal.
And to piggyback on what you were saying, Zach, I think another thing that was that I think could have been done that I don't think was done, which goes back to the local governments. We know that the municipalities and things were doing these rental assistance programming for these individuals. I think from a state perspective, if any of these individuals were actually having to file for an unemployment, because ultimately a lot of these individuals were not actually getting the money that they, it was great they were getting the 300, and then of course they were getting the additional, but there were still individuals who could not make rent. So I think on top of that program that they were doing with the unemployment, I think there should have also been a package in place to possibly maybe do a along with their state benefits to maybe do some type of rental assistance as if they qualified for those particular packages. Because as you were saying, there's money that was there and was not allocated. And so I don't necessarily think, no, it was the federal government that dropped the ball per se. I do think that, but we also had a governor who was literally not taking certain funds or accepting certain funds and actually doing certain things they were supposed to be doing anyway. And unfortunately, as we've seen other states are doing, they're actually doing extensions. We have the ability to do so. It's just that we have a group of people who just don't see, the need for it. Hence the reason why they were so quick to immediately take people off of the regular unemployment. The other aspect of that, when Vince, you asked the question of, is it some of the people's fault for, because we have jobs out there? It's great they could have gotten the jobs, but at the end of the day, if they still have all this back, all this back money, all this backlog, it's great they have a job. But if they can't necessarily catch up because, they just receiving the jobs, it's kind of hard. It's great they got the jobs, they're out there, but how are you going to play catch up? So it's bad all around, and we could have done a better job as from the local and from the state perspective to make sure people have what they needed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just curious to know from these landlords and property management companies, would it cost them more money to evict the people? Because when you go through an eviction process, there's court costs and fees that are associated with that. And it's a process when you evict people. It's just not like an overnight type thing when you get evicted. So I just want to know, would it cost them more money to go through all that and pay the court costs and go to court for all the people to get evicted as opposed to just letting these people stay?
I'm sure it's costing them a lot of money to just have, even thinking about buildings that they still own the buildings a lot of times, these apartment complexes. So it's like they're spending out money, but they're not getting their money back in return. So I'm sure it's still very expensive. So I wonder how our tax dollars can be better used to, suit some of those needs, as Zach mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the stream law. Thank you, Horatio, for pointing that out. That the YouTube is delayed, so there may be an issue across the board with StreamYard on certain accounts. So it seems like it's rebroadcasting now. It looks like it's now working from my account, so maybe it's improved. So we'll see. The eviction crisis is slated to also become a financial crisis. And I think this is even scarier because when you look at all the people that will be affected and impacted by being their lives interrupted, it's going to certainly have an impact on the American economy, just as the American economy was starting to rebound. This is a graphic. It was released last week before we found out that the COVID-19 had made a horrific comeback, that the American economy had rebounded to almost pre-pandemic levels, exactly as President Biden promised would happen. As he said he was going to build back better, he was right there on the verge of actually being better, with our economy showing the signs of growth that we've been looking for. However, now with this eviction crisis looming and COVID-19 on the rise, we see this possibly also having a trickle back effect on the economy. Gentlemen, what do you guys think will happen to our economy as we're facing two crises at the same time?
We're going right back where we started. I mean, we're regressing. We're going backwards. And so it's hard to watch because we've done so much to get to where we are. We've masked up, we've vaccinated, we've social distanced, some of us. But we now need for everyone to do that so that we can, move back in the positive direction. But of course, it's gonna be looking just like it was looking last year around this time. So I hope that people take it seriously and really, continue to band together, because I mean, there were days in July that we had 0 reported cases. But now that this Delta variant has hit the scene, it's going to require us to go back to what we had been doing before, to be more vigilant, to be more proactive, and to be more, mindful of the way that we engage. Like, even for myself, I had to check myself. There was a time I wouldn't even touch a gas pump without gloves on, or certain like little small things that just kind of gone by the wayside as we've gotten a little more comfortable after we've been vaccinated. So we just all have to be mindful and do the best that we can so that we can move back in a positive direction, because the economy is definitely going to hurt if we have to shut down again.
Well, Derek, you made a lot of great points, but have we really made a lot of progression? Like you said, a lot of us got vaccinated. I don't think a lot of people have not got vaccinated, and a lot of people are not.
We had 0 cases, is what I said. There were days in July we had 0 reported cases.
But that's just here in the state of Georgia. If you want to think about the whole,
that's where we are.
We are, but I mean, if you want to talk about the whole, world in general, like just the whole United States, there's a lot of states that people are not getting vaccinated, not wearing masks, and they're not making any progress.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it's funny that you brought this up, Zach, because going back to the eviction piece of the conversation, it's legit like a domino effect that could occur, right? Yes. Because now you have people that potentially get evicted. Now they're homeless. Now credit down the drain, back pay that ain't even getting covered. The property agencies, all that stuff going down the drain. It's just like this trickle effect that just can really put us in a hellhole outside of what you all were talking about in terms of just the health part. And what Zach Thomas just said, Lambda is coming too. It just really struck a chord with me, because I'm like, are we like literally going to go through the whole Greek alphabet, iota, kappa, beta, omega? Like, we're going to run out of Greek letters and have to go to like hurricanes, COVID, Abigail, COVID, Bernard, COVID, Dennis. Like, what is, like, are we ever going to get out of this circle, out of this realm of what I think is just confusion and mess right now? But yeah, essentially, I think we could just go worse than where we were prior to the quarantine, realistically, if we don't band together on both sides.
And I think, and you hit it on the nail, and I think what's going to happen is, again, we have to keep doing this educating aspect of it. Like, I was in Florida for vacation last week, and unfortunately, nobody in Florida, first of all, the cases in Florida are going up beyond measure, and, they're not a mask mandate state. And so they were not requiring people to wear their mask. Now, as for me and my house and my family, we wore a mask everywhere we went. But they didn't mandate that. But the other thing that I'm realizing is going to take those people who are having issues. Like, for instance, I sent you all earlier today, we had South Carolina senator, Miss Lindsey Graham, who tested positive for COVID and was vaccinated, and now said, oh, well, I'm glad I got vaccinated, because if I did not get vaccinated, this would be worse than it is, and I had flu-like symptoms. But yet, originally, these were individuals who were talking all this foolishness about don't get, this is just the Democratic something, this, and everything else. And now, again, even those who are out there, who are vaccinated, who are actually getting it, and now who are talking against it, these are things that we have to do. We have to keep educating people and saying, listen, you gotta get vaccinated. If you're not going, and I hate to say this, but I do feel, a shutdown coming. I do feel a shutdown coming. And if I may be wrong with that, but I feel a shutdown coming. And that might be what it takes to get us to where we are. But I hate that we have to bank on, again, this honor code. I hate that we have to bank on this honor code and hope that people will just do what they do, because of the fact that people won't do right. So I hate that's the case. And especially now that our kids have gone back to, many of our kids have gone back to school today, that's even scary within itself.
Yeah, that's exactly as Horatio said. I'm going to make myself big to say this. There can be no lockdowns, right? There is no reason to have any more lockdowns when the majority of people in this country who are true patriots did exactly what they should have done, and they got vaccinated. If every single American who was eligible for the vaccine would have been vaccinated, COVID-19 in America would have ceased. This is the fault of the Joe Biden presidency and his administration to not protect me and to not protect people like me. Joe Biden failed us with this one. Let me explain exactly what I mean when I say Joe Biden failed us. Joe Biden chose to honor the rights of these right-wing conservative nut jobs instead of taking the time and doing what was right for all Americans as a whole. Now we have children on ventilators that we haven't seen during the COVID crisis previously. Now we have the threat and how this is going to impact the American economy. When you take a look at this graphic, you see COVID-19 right here in Georgia. You see from the beginning of July until now, a massive surge. We went from 0 deaths now to 3,000 deaths in less than 1 month. In addition, we went from a small, slowly decline of cases under 10,000 to over 123,000 cases in Georgia alone. And again, when this was something that was only affecting or impacting the unvaccinated, I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't care. I could care less, because you can make the choice for your own personal body. But now with these breakthrough cases, you're impacting and affecting me. You're breaking through and you're killing people with your ignorance and your refusal to do your part as an American to beat this virus. The people that did what they should have done. So I am absolutely disgusted. I'm angry at Joe Biden. I'm pissed off at the CDC. And I'm extremely angry at the Republican Party. I am absolutely disgusted. To me, our government has completely failed us, trying to play these bipartisan games, and there's no place for it in American politics, not when it comes to my safety and the safety of those I love.
That part.
Well, when you talk about those we love, it's time to go and talk about, the athletic GOAT of the year, the one and only Simone Biles, who has come under a lot of criticism and controversy for decisions that she made regarding this year's Olympic Games. Simone Biles decided to withdraw from lots of competition due to being impacted negatively with what is deemed in the athletic world as the twisties, where she has massive disorientation and it poses a massive threat to her physical well-being. She has taken a lot of criticism, specifically from white men who commentate on sports. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on the one and only Simone Biles and her decision to prioritize her mental and physical health over the capitalistic pursuits of the Olympic Games?
They should have been worried about COVID instead of the Olympic Games anyway, but because they are there, I just think that, it's important that Simone did take this stance, just like Naomi Osaka took the stance, and there have been several other people who have taken the stance that they're prioritizing their mental health. We cannot preach self-care, mental health, awareness. We can't preach all this stuff And then when it comes down to someone exerting that and setting their boundaries and saying, you know, this is what is best for me, then you get mad because, you know, it's tied to money or to acclaim. And so I'm glad that she decided to put herself above all other, you know, all other entities, because at the end of the day, she could have gotten on that balance beam and she could have killed herself or seriously injured herself, and she would have been of no good to the Olympic team or to her family or anyone else. And so I'm glad that she made the best choice for her. And we have to champion moments like this because it also sends a message to other athletes and people who may be in positions where a lot of people are counting on them to say that, you know, this is not good for me, and so I'm not going to do it. It's not your job to carry the pressure or the weight of the world, or in this case, the nation.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, my brother. I think that these critics are comparing the Simone Biles situation to Carrie Strug. 1996, a gymnast who hurt her ankle and she did the vault. And of course, you know, glory to God, she got the gold, yada, 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 yada. But she was severely injured post that. And realistically, she shouldn't have done it. But you got that pressure from the Georgia Dome, pressure from America, all that stuff. And so my question to the country is, where are you setting your hope? Where are you setting your expectations? Like, why do we feel so affirmed in ourselves to just come at somebody so hard because you don't have the ability to do what she do? I love how Whoopi Goldberg said on The View when they talked about it last week. She was like, I want to see some of y'all try to do all the stuff that she been doing, because while she, you know, getting all these golds and World Cups, our behinds been getting bigger during the quarantine. So I don't understand why y'all sitting up here with all these, you know, this negative energy attacking this young woman or what have you. Another piece that I do want to say, I think what sort of fuels Americans or just people in general to putting their hope in the celebrity or in the champion, the it girl, the it guy, is because so many corporations, you know, these endorsements, Wheaties, Tide, like all of these companies have that one person. I think that they should maybe get 2 to 3 to 4 spotlight people to sort of share that light, because that goes to Naomi's point. She's the it girl of tennis. All of the light is on her versus like so many other phenomenal tennis players that could equally be as great, equally be, you know, great representation for these companies and these endorsements. So I think there's a way that they can maybe just spread the love and sort of alleviate a lot of this pressure that is happening on this one person. And also Pierce, what's his name? Pierce, he didn't need to stop. Like, that man's so negative. It's typical. He's just negative as shit, man.
He still got a platform?
Right. Like, how are you still talking?
But one of the other things I will say to you that people also fail to realize is two other things on top of all what y'all just said. Second, first and foremost, this woman, before she even stepped foot on anything that she done on the floor, they already had told her that she was not going to get the maximum of what because her skill set, they can't judge her skill set. And so she was not going to get the maximum score of what because they couldn't score it. And so here you are, you're walking on the floor. And they told you that you're not going to. It's almost like they're finding a way to try to make you do this, bring you down to everybody else's level, and you still can't compete at the level that you should be competing. So you have to dumb yourself down a little bit. Secondly, she thought more about those young ladies on that team. She took herself off and said, if I keep doing this, we're not going to win. So what she did was she took herself off, and guess what she did? She coached those young ladies across. She made sure everywhere she was at every single one of their events, coaching them across. And that's how I believe they got silver, because she was still a leader at the end of the day. She was the leader that they were looking at. And she knew that if she would have crumbled and walked away, those young girls who've never been to the Olympics before would have crumbled themselves. Hence the reason why I also believe that the young girl won the gold in her position, because of the fact that she took the lead of her leader. So I find this a problem, because I hate to say this, but I've even seen this even within our community, who's talking about quitters and who she's a quitter and everything else. This young lady, for me, what I believe epitomizes what a true leader looks like. Selfless leader, and said, you know what, this is not about me. This is not about me. This is about the collective interest of who I'm with. And I think people who are about themselves don't understand what she did. If you're people who are about their own agendas and people about their own stuff, they don't understand that kind of life. They don't understand about stepping aside to do the common good. And at the end of the day, I'm proud of what she did. And the very last point I want to make is because people keep comparing her to these, to basketball athletes like LeBron James and everything else. And let me also be very clear. At the end of the day, there's a difference between being lazy and being complacent and being someone trying to do something for yourself. That's just simple. That quit trying to compare, pick and choose and compare when we do well, if she was a male, they were talking about, as a male, we don't go and say that she first of all, don't get you mad because you can't go out there and play the way you want to play, or you can't complain when to complain. The way that they have put this pressure on women so much is ridiculous. And the fact that you want to keep justifying it by literally throwing up a male issue and comparing her to a male, it's absolutely asinine. And that's my fear for us as we continue to talk about and encourage women to take time for themselves to get better. And so I applaud her.
And one more thing to add to your point, even though she didn't face this type of pressure, what have you, but like Gabby Douglas, they was trashing her, when she was competing in the Olympics too. Why she look this way? Why her ponytail this way? Well, why her edges this way? But they were still dogging her out as well. So it just seems like these black women in Olympics, they just may need to sort of reevaluate their position in that, because they always being attacked in whatever circumstance.
Zach, they just actually, because the Jamaicans won the race that the young lady would have been in, Nicki Minaj were trashing her, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, this young lady, why are we even having a she didn't run? Why are you still comparing her in this race? She didn't win, but I'm sure, I ain't gonna lie, I bet you if her tail would have been there, she probably would have been 1, 2, or 3.
I think that's a stretch to say that Nicki was trashing her. She tweeted, "Y'all miss me yet?" That's what Sha'Carri tweeted. And exactly. Like she was the only
Sha'Carri, say her name.
They call her Sha'Carri. Her teammates call her Sha'Carri on that video. So I will continue.
Attitude. Sha'Carri the weed.
We can fact. Okay, she carried the bag, baby. Anyway, she made it seem like she was the only person who could be competitive in that competition. She did that. And so if people have Jamaican pride and they decide that they were proud of those people for performing well and they want to celebrate them, then I think they should feel free to celebrate them.
But yeah, the thing, she's one of the fastest women in the world. So I mean, she talking straight. She didn't get a chance to prove it. So
the time that they won with, it was better than Sha'Carri's personal best. So I'm just saying, I'm not defending anybody, bashing anybody, but I don't feel like it was a bash.
Yeah. Going back to what Vince said about Gabby Douglas, and I have reflected a lot on that. There is no way the way the media attacked her and the way that people were allowed to attack this athlete in 2016, that would have been allowed to happen now, since we finally have a different level of consciousness around in our society. So I agree with that 100%. Simone Biles and the way that these expectations are, the fact that the American media and these American organizations or corporations expected this woman to carry their brand and these Olympic Games on her back for their profit is disrespectful. That is exactly why I've been saying the whole entire time, we need to boycott the Olympics and not watch. Because again, this young lady would have gotten, I think, $25,000 per medal, while NBC rakes in billions, while these sponsored organizations rake in billions from her image and her likeness just because she's an athlete. She did the best thing I have ever seen an athlete do by simply not participating. She brought down the Olympics and she deconstructed this whole system that, in my opinion, is extremely racist against Black athletes. And I'm glad that she did. Not only did she, by not participating, really hurt the overall games, but she made way for the next generation of young women to step up and take the lead. And that is what good leaders do. We don't know to what extent Gabby did that for her. We don't know to what extent she may have thought about all of those things when she did that for the young ladies on her team. I'm proud of her and I'm thankful. And let me reassure you of this. Simone Biles ain't worried about this. She has a net worth of $6 million from sponsorships and deals that go beyond just the Olympics. Things like Uber Eats and Instagram and Ritz crackers. She is, again, worth $6 million. She is going home to her boyfriend who plays in the NFL, and they're going to sit there and braid each other's hair after these Olympic Games and have a great time. She could care less about Piers Morgan or any other white man who is critiquing her. More power to Queen Simone.
Not braid each other's hair.
Well, you see the picture.
And then, may I mind you, I don't know how Americans be flexing. They know they don't be watching nor caring about the Olympics. I mean, not Olympics, gymnastics to every 4 years. Soon as the Olympics over, ain't nobody gonna be thinking about Simone and none of these people. So, like, why y'all? That's why I said, why you setting your hope and expectations on something that you are going to forget in 3 days and not care about at all? Come on, y'all.
It is the unfortunate American way. Also, something that is a part of the American way is ingrained homophobia in hip hop. Just last week, we talked about the baby and his comments about fellatio in a parking lot, about HIV deaths, just nonsense. Well, since then, there has been a torrent and a flood of attacks against his artists, as well as finally major moves that impact his financial standing. He came out with a new apology. I want to say this happened on today. Darius, do you want to read it for us? The Lil Baby apology. You're the official reader. You're our official reader. So let me bring up the baby's official apology.
Read.
Man, social media moves so fast that people want to demolish you before you even have the opportunity to grow, educate, and learn from your mistakes. As a man who has had to make his own way from very difficult circumstances, having people I know publicly work against me, knowing that what I needed was education on these topics and guidance has been very challenging. I appreciate the many people who came to me with kindness, who reached out to me privately to offer wisdom, education, and resources. That's what I needed, and it was received. I want to apologize to the LGBTQ, MNOPQRSTUV community for the hurtful and triggering comments I made. Again, I apologize for my misinformed comments about HIV/AIDS, and I know education on this is important. Love to you all, and God bless the baby's 14th apology.
14th apology, still not getting it right. While again, still not getting it right. This man came out and said these things, and he doubled down on what he said the very next day. In addition to doubling down on what he said, he got other artists like T.I. and Lil Boosie to back him and support him and continue to perpetuate it. And he would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for those pesky kids. The kids got him. The kids got him good. And that brought this man down. So, Valerie, when you say to help you with the baby issue, what it comes down to is perpetuating falsehoods and absolute ignorance and then expecting people to still support you. I don't have a problem if anyone wants to continue to support the baby. That's your choice. But I am thankful to see so many organizations pulling their financial resources away from him and no longer giving him a platform because of what he clearly believes. I believe in cancel culture, and this is the prime example of how cancel culture moves in the right way, quickly and swiftly, to bring about retribution.
100%.
The baby got himself decanceled and defunded because clearly he has been. But I guess my problem that I have also is that he missed a part of his apology. Because, yeah, you talked about the LGBTQ community and everything else, but you still degraded women and still talked against women. And so my problem is and it's just, I hate the fact that there have been people who have actually come out and supported the ignorance. But the problem is, here's what's funny. We're concerned about the people who come support, but the people who come and support him should shut up because they got their own stuff going on between T.I. and Bootsy and then somebody, why are we concerned about the people who are supporting? I just hate the fact that he is just like this whole education piece and everything else. Just shut up. This concept about, people can give time to educate. Well, you should have took the time to shut up and or found a way. Stop coming up with stop coming out with topics on top of topics, on tweets on top of tweets and Insta. Like, you don't want to be educated. You're just trying to do damage control. That's your problem. You're just doing damage control. So, yeah. So, Zach, This will be the first time that you hear me say on this here situation, on this here, that the baby is canceled and defunded.
So, and let me give you a little opposite piece of it, right? Because actually, I'm not necessarily on Saturday. I made a comment in my spin class. No, it was on Wednesday, right when this happened. I was in my spin class and my spin instructor played a song from him. And I said, you can't play it anymore. He didn't even know what had happened. But then he came back and said, we won't play him anymore. And I actually said, no, that's not necessary to do. You don't have to not play him anymore, but because it's not that big of a deal. But then he doubled down on his comments. Then he made himself even more ignorant in what he said. And here's the thing, Valerie. I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about the young man in Atlanta whose family emotionally and physically abused him at 10 years old because they are so homophobic and they hate the concept of gay so much that they embarrassed him on Instagram Live. They physically assaulted him on Instagram Live and they cut the words gay into his head. They did that because of what they have been taught to do. And they have been taught that by the Black community. And they have been taught that by people like DaBaby and T.I. and Lil Boosie and Tory Lanez. They perpetuate that kind of thinking in the uneducated people in our community and also in some of the educated people too. So this is what causes that to happen. And we have to do all that we can to take it out and erase it. Homophobia is just as dangerous to American society as racism.
That's racism, exactly.
It's the exact same thing. And
exactly.
For anyone to not understand that, you need to look in the mirror and you need to examine your own heart. If you don't understand why we need to cancel the baby and the damage and the harm that he is doing to Black people right now. As someone who endured bullying for a large part of my childhood, who refused to let people like DaBaby steal my light because of their insecurities and their problems, I have absolutely no room for it, period, in 21st century America.
I'm with you, Zach. And what I get tired of, and I'm very exhausted. That's why I brought my pillow tonight, because I am tired. People continue to say that, they're dragging this out. This is so tired. This is exhausting, et cetera, et cetera. And my thing is, to what extent would you go to end racism? For instance, we marching all across the world. We, chanting defund police. We are getting into good trouble. We're doing all of the things that we need to do in order to bring awareness to the issue. But let something homophobic happen, they want us to shut up and shut up quickly. A lot of people would love it for gay people to just exist, but don't be too loud about it. Just do that over there, because then it becomes the gay agenda. I think Boosie made some more comments today about it's going to be in the next 10 years, it won't even be normal for children to be straight or something like that. It's all ignorance. And as they continue to perpetuate this, so many people who know better support stuff like this by saying, oh, y'all are dragging it out. All right, that's enough now. It's not enough. What should happen is that we should all band together in the same way that we do when anything else is wrong. And then to say that, oh, y'all don't get mad when things happen to him, that is asinine. We counsel Tory Lanez about what he did with Megan Thee Stallion. We stand up for women every day, especially on this platform. We stand up for women, and that's not something that we do for a pat on the back or, for any other reason other than it's right. So don't say that, don't generalize and say that we only care when it comes to, certain people. I think it's ignorant. And I think that we all have a duty to, when we see something that's wrong, to say something and stand up on it. And I don't care if it's DaBaby, if it's the Biden, if it's the Obama, I don't care who it is. We're going to say something. And until he actually acts on the education that he has received, I am looking at this just like I'm looking at everything else. Bullshit.
And yeah, Vince.
So in complete agreement with what everybody said, me looking at it from the industry side, when you got Madonna tweeting out against you, when you got Elton John tweeting out against you, the king and queen of MTV, partner, it's a wrap from there. These people be making phone calls behind closed doors. I don't want this man in the Staples Arena. I don't want to see him on the Grammys. I don't want to see, it's really going to be a domino effect. I really think that this is just the what's the word? He hasn't even scratched the surface.
Yeah, it's the tip of the iceberg.
The tip of the iceberg of what's going to happen to his career. And yes, granted, he can do his own things and, cater to Black people, urban America, if you will. But at the end of the day, everybody know that pop check and that crossover check gonna bring you more money. Everybody know you're gonna get more money from American Music Awards than you'll get from BET Awards. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, these rap artists they know that. Lil Baby, he ain't saying nothing like that. And back in the day, Busta Rhymes ain't saying nothing like that. And then also from the industry side, these newer artists are becoming such a liability to these labels, to these talent development companies, to these booking agencies. The art of media development, media training is gone. Public relations is gone. Talent development is gone. And it's so sad. It's so sad. But it is what it is. Rightfully deserved.
And I just want to say again, I believe anybody can feel how they want to feel. You can say whatever you want to say. Just don't get mad when people don't agree with you or when people decide that they don't want to, source your lifestyle. I never want to see anybody hungry or, trying to feed their children. They can't feed their children. You won't do it with my money with those types of beliefs, because the very beliefs that you have are the beliefs that keep me disenfranchised, me fearing for my life. Certain places I won't go because I have to be afraid of people who have these types of beliefs. And then the children and the trauma that they endure and have to go through, even as Zach spoke. I'm sure that any gay person will tell you that they've endured the same thing. So no, you won't get any of my money. Do what you want to do, believe what you want to believe, feel how you want to feel. Just do not expect a red cent from Darius J. Williams, MED.
And this is what it takes. This is the kind of action that it takes to cancel and put an end to, at least send a message. Lollapalooza pulled him off the lineup. The Founders Entertainment, it's been every single day since he made these ignorant comments and chose to double down on those comments. He has lost money, endorsements, lineups. Here's the thing. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that the baby is really going to be canceled, okay? He's not going to be, because we are the exact same community, as Dr. DeAndre Pickett said, that is so fickle that we were angry that Kanye West said slavery was a choice, but you marched your butts down to Mercedes-Benz Arena, his brand new home, for his listening party. So we're going to do the same thing with the baby. The baby could have the baby could have rapped every single slur hurled at the LGBTQIA plus community, and you would still stream his music. You would still go to his concert. But at least, if nothing else, this action has sent a message in media that will make people like him think twice about these comments, because they would lose immediate money at that time. And we have a whole litany of comments. The baby literally killed somebody in a Walmart. He doesn't need a platform. He is disrespectful. What happened to the day when you take your ass to work, do a job, and go home?
That's what Chris Brown said. Chris Brown said, sing your song and sit down, Otis.
When Chris Brown has to be the voice of reason, it's a problem. And speaking of Otis, he pulled Tory Lanez out there with his hair transplant and had him do some rapping and singing. Ain't nobody come to see you, Otis. Again, T.I. pulled a gun on a woman and constantly talks about the woman who came out against him, calling them liars. Boosie, known killer. Sean said, then do a double back on comments just because you're now losing out on money, and that justifies your remorseful and your ignorant comments. Again, Tory Lanez shot Meg. These men are dangerous, hands down. And thank you again. If you're not supporting a violent person, I'm not supporting a violent person at all. And that's what we have happening. Hopefully we will see, this continue to play out, and hopefully see more artists learn from those mistakes. Last comment here came from Zach Thomas, who is going to join me for the IG Live after show, where he said, no, he is not going to be canceled because we are not the only race that listens to rap. Young white kids are one of the biggest supporters of rap, but also do know this, Zach Thomas, that young white kids are the ones who are angriest about the comments that he made. Young white kids are the ones who seem to be most in Generation Z, the most ambivalent and unconcerned about sexual identity notifications and markers, and falling in a category. So they're the ones who are actually angriest about it. I think that they're the ones who are truly going to cancel the baby. An example being Dua Lipa. There's no way Dua Lipa would have taken him off the song if white people weren't going to listen to him. The baby is done.
That's the gay agenda everybody is so afraid of. They're afraid for us to be able to live in our truth and walk down the street and be excited about, being with they're afraid, y'all. They don't want to see. That's why I fight so hard for Lil Nas X, because Lil Nas X is going to throw everything in your face that you're afraid of. And until he's able to do that and it's not something that's so sensationalized, then it shows that it needs to be done.
And the gay agenda isn't a black agenda. The majority of people who are really invested in that fight, they don't look like us. And that's a whole nother intersectionality conversation. And when we're talking about intersectionality, let's talk about reboots. CJ, tell us about it.
So the famous 1990s house party movie, yet again, another reboot is on the way. We have Jacob Lattimore, who is replacing George Lindenberg Jr., which is the one with the hair. Jacob Lattimore, who is known for The Chi, he plays Emmett on The Chi. He's replacing George Lindenberg for a house party. He said he has some mental health issues he was dealing with, and it just right now wasn't a good place for him to be acting, so he wanted to fall back. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. Are you guys here for the reboot? Also, Tosin Collin, he's going to be playing Play. He's known for Burning Sands. I don't know if you guys remember that movie on Netflix. It was a really good movie. But he will be playing Play. So I just want to get everyone's opinion and see, are you guys here for the reboot? How do you guys feel about the reboot? Is this something that can just kind of stay where it was?
Who asked for this?
Yeah,
like, I remember like for Coming to America too, like people were like, oh, they were asking for it. But I don't know if people were asking for a house party.
I haven't heard no one asking about a house party.
Yeah, it's so random. I don't know. And then for me, like, even when the movie comes out, I don't want to hear the negative train. I don't want to hear like Twitter just drag it. Like, I'm so sick of that. So it's like, just leave it alone.
I feel like they play house party enough now on TV to where we don't need a reboot.
Yeah, and it's like certain things I can see like a reboot. Like, okay, I want to see a Black Little Mermaid, so I'm okay with seeing that. Or personally, I want to see a Black, for roles that have been traditionally iconic and have always been played by white people. I would love to see reboots with Black people to give that type of visibility and those types of opportunities for these large stories to up and coming actors and actresses. However, for an already Black classic, I don't see the need for you to come up here with another kid and play. Like, it's just,
I'm not here for it. Yeah, certain things don't need, like Martin, Living Single, House Party. Certain things don't need to be rebooted.
Where's the creativity? This is when I say, where are the new stories? And I think that a lot of times maybe it's just hard to tell new stories, but they need to try harder.
And I think that, go ahead, CJ.
I think it is hard to come up with new stories, but why take something old? Why not be creative and try to create something new? And I think that's the problem that people are doing. People are running out of ideas, and people are just trying to just reboot because they have nothing else to do.
I don't know. I don't think that ideas being ran off. I think that people aren't being given the opportunities. The people who have these ideas aren't given the same opportunities as others. So that's what
I can agree with you on that. And I think the people that have the ideas are the people who are not like really big in the scene.
Yeah.
And my thing is not the problem that they're doing reboots. I think reboots are okay depending on the situation and circumstance. My problem becomes, as Vince and I have talked about on this thing often, when we start talking about Black Twitter, and Black people in general, how they immediately will go in, they're going to target it either way. But my other problem I have about this is, there are certain movies and certain situations that are for that time period and for that time frame. This was a classic for the 90s. Like, this was that time frame that was a classic for that time movement. And certain things told a story. Like, there was like a House Party. When you think about Martin, when you think about Living Single, when you think about a lot of those shows and a lot of those movies that came out during those time frames, it was a culture. It was a movement, and some things don't necessarily. I understand that some of the ideals and some of the things that happened in the 90s are coming back, but I don't think the culture itself. It just doesn't. There's just certain things that we don't see anymore that will happen. And I think trying to modernize something, I don't think we don't need to modernize everything, right? Because there's certain things that we did that did happen in the 90s and happened in the 80s that won't necessarily fly right now. There's certain things you cannot, because of the way the culture is. There's certain things you could say in the 90s you can't say in 2021 now. There's certain things they said in House Party and things they would do you can't say now. So I just think that at the end of the day, certain things need to stay in the era where it is. Let's appreciate it. Let us watch it. But we don't need it, because let's be very honest. Nobody asked for House Party 2 or 3. So nobody asked for
Part 2 was good though. Part 3,
nobody asked for it. They just did it. So we're not asking for 2 or 3. So
right, but I will say part 2
reboot
was good. Part 3 was trash, and they still kept the original characters and everything. But yeah,
but the other aspect about that is my other thing is if they're also not going to. But again, it's another thing about the reboot because it's like you're not going to like draw the old characters in and tell the story. Like Tisha Campbell and Christopher Reed. Is this their son? Are you gonna like now make it modern because they did eventually get it? Like, are you gonna extend the story? You can't do a reboot because it's not gonna make sense.
Want to be the first?
You said with this, I think they're doing that with the reboot with Candyman. I think that in the remake, the guy, I don't know his name, but the guy who's playing the main character, I think he's Candyman's son. I think they're doing that with that reboot, but I don't know yet because the movie's not out yet.
Stop the track! Stop the track, Dr. Black.
Okay. But even with the reboot with that, he said he never even seen Candyman. So here you are about to you supposedly you never seen Candyman.
Well, and that's another thing. So we do these. So they're doing these reboots now. So let me ask you, how many people do you really think in this generation are even watching the originals?
None. I think
they even care to watch the original.
None. I think that's why they're trying to capitalize off of telling their story again and
you're right,
relevant to those people.
Yeah, you're right, Darius. So I just feel that nostalgia has become a genre. It's not a theme anymore. I just think nostalgia has become a genre, like Horatio. So actually, Raven's Home was pretty decent. Raven's Home was pretty decent. It was okay for review, but in comparison to it wasn't. But in comparison to other TV shows and movies that they're trying to bring back, I just think they are capitalizing off of that old feeling, off of what shoulda, coulda, woulda been, and it's been successful in some cases, and it hasn't been successful in many cases. So I personally think they just need to leave this one alone.
Yes. Now, me and Malik did watch Raven's Home. We did watch it, so I'm not gonna clown them, but it wasn't that so Raven. It was pretty good.
So this month for everyone out there is Black Entrepreneur Awareness Month. And so I know on my Instagram, I'm highlighting a Black business of the day every day. In the same way that we every Monday night highlight Black history 365 days a year. Darius, who are we honoring tonight for our Black history recognition?
Yes, I did want to highlight Alice Coachman. Alice Coachman was the first Black woman to earn an Olympic gold medal, winning the high jumps at the 1948 Olympics. She was born in Albany, Georgia. She attended Albany State University, graduated in 1946. And one interesting thing is that at the time that she won the Olympics, it was celebrated in, I believe it was London. However, they did not celebrate her win in the still segregated South. So I did want to highlight Alice Coachman for paving the way for so many other amazing athletes who do show up to the Olympics to represent our country in the best of their abilities. And we want to highlight her tonight for her high jump win, being the first Olympic gold winner of a Black or African American woman. Alice Coachman.
That's heartbreaking. I know there's an Alice Coachman Elementary School, I think, in Doherty County. So it is just that's a heartbreaking story. I never knew that, so I'm glad that you shared that. That's a wonderful Black history fact. I'm definitely now going to dig in my heels and do more research on Alice Coachman. But that breaks my heart, and that's even more reason as to why I say I will never support the American International Olympic Committee. Won't be able to do it. And so, right, get on the road with your business. That's the whole point of recognizing Black businesses. We have entrepreneurs right here. Support them with It's a Cheesecake. We have for Brightest Future Foundations. We have published authors, and we have upcoming amazing podcast, pop culture stuff that will be happening with CJ. Again, radio host, awesome things. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We're at 9:57. It has been a joy. We hope to have you back on next week. Thank you guys so much. Feel free to join some of us afterwards for the after show on IG Live. and as well, everyday action, right? It's like so many business. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's like the making tank, right? He's a shark all in and of himself.
Horatio was one of my little mentees. I love you, bro.
And I don't think that you've been here since I had that cheesecake dance. I was talking good about it.
Oh, really quickly.
Yeah, definitely done our part to recognize and highlight it's a cheesecake located in Ann Cheese in Lenox Mall.
Right
Yes,
across
I wanna
from Bloomingdale's.
Right. I want to say thank you all so much for your support, Zach, Darius, DeAndre, CJ. I really appreciate it. I tuned in last week and I saw the beginning of the episode. So thank you. Love you guys.
All right, go get you a hot toddy.
Yes.